Over the weekend, while you were busy out doing, baseball and church and hanging out with the fam, Republicans did what Republicans always do. They lost. They lost to Democrats in a government fight. And look, let's pause for a moment. Tell me you could see this coming, right? I told you it was coming. You should know by now it was coming, whether you're 6 or 96. The Republicans lose. That's what Republicans do. Republicans lose because Republicans are losers. But it's more specific than that. This is what we face right now as a country. We'll get to Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm and this actual funding thing. And just pause for a moment. This is what we face right now as a country. This is a common thing countries have faced, a common thing people have faced in human history. It is a common thing for a human being to be in a dire situation. And the situation is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right? The boat is going down. In fact, let's do this little analogy. I want you to picture this. I want you to picture this moment. There's a big boat. It's a big cruise ship. All these people are on it. And boom, hits an iceberg, okay, Titanic style. And the boat starts going down. And the life rafts on one side of the boat, for whatever reason, maybe there's high seas or something, they start filling up with water and they're dragging the boat under the water. Instead of helping, they're a drag. But the people who are in charge of the boat, they look at the lifeboats and they say, that's going to be our way out. We need those lifeboats. But you're standing there on the deck looking at them saying, no, we have to cut the lifeboats loose. But the people who are in charge of the boat say, no, that's such a bridge too far, then we'll never have lifeboats. And essentially, in a bid to save themselves, the people who are running the boat are actually going to doom everybody. That is our government. That is the GOP. In a bid to kind of keep things normal, hey, let's not rock the boat, pardon the pun. Let's just let the boat go down. We are $33 trillion in debt. Did you know, I want you to wrap your mind around this. You know our military budget is gigantic, right? It's huge. Bigger than the next several countries combined. Huge military budget. The interest on our debt now exceeds our military budget. What am I saying? We have a 45-day funding bill. And of course, we got rolled. Democrats got virtually everything they wanted, with the exception of Ukraine funding, which they're going to get in the end anyway. They got everything. And Republicans are all hand-wringing. Oh, what should we have done? Should we have taken the border money? Did Matt Gaetz screw it up? All these other things. This should have been an all-hands-on-deck meeting to cut the lifeboats because the ship is going down. And instead, 90 Republicans voted against it in the House, only 9 in the Senate. For the most part, Democrats and Republicans came together once again to keep those lifeboats right where they are. It all seems so predictable, doesn't it? And for people like you, for people like me, who understand history, and we understand where this is going, it's horrific to watch. This country can still be saved if drastic, dire action is taken now. And no one wants to take it. And I think about this a lot because every time I read a history book or I watch a documentary, I was watching another one this weekend on some various empire. This one was the Ottomans. On any various empire towards the end as they start to crumble, as they start to fall. And you look back with 20/20 hindsight on the nation and you say to yourself, man, this point right here, if right at this point right here, they could have stopped everything and switched it around, done a 180 and headed the other direction. They could have saved it. And yet, nobody did. They didn't do it. And this is empire after empire after empire after empire throughout history. There's always a moment, a thing they could do to save it. And they never do it. And that's what we see now. And that's what the Republican Party really is, honestly. So let me spoil something for you. What this is 45 days. 45 days of funding the government. So essentially, They have 45 days now to buckle down, all hands on deck. Everybody get here! And let's figure out how to save this country from the $33 trillion in debt that will slam into it like a hydrogen bomb. Instead, they've already scheduled 6 weeks off during that time. You see, after 45 days, Mr. Producer, go ahead and write this one down. Go ahead and put a timestamp on it. 45 days from this day right now, we will be giving you a show, bringing you a show right here on I'm Right. Unless that's a weekend, I don't have a calendar in front of me. But 45 days from this moment right now, we will be here bringing you a show discussing the next temporary funding bill the GOP came together with Democrats to fund. You can write that down, etch it in stone. If they had a bet on that in Vegas, you should bet your life savings on it. It is a guarantee because the lifeboats must remain where they are, guaranteeing all of us are going down in flames. So please don't ask me to sit here and give a crap about the Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy speakership fight.
Are you going to make a motion to vacate?
Speaker McCarthy made an agreement with House conservatives in January, and since then he has been in brazen, repeated material breach of that agreement. I do intend to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy this week. I think we need to rip off the Band-Aid. I think we need to move on with new leadership that can be trustworthy.
Okay. McCarthy shot back with this. It's war words now.
Yeah. There is a lot to get to with you. I want to start, though, on the news this morning from Congressman Matt Gaetz, who says he's going to seek a motion to vacate. He's going to try to oust you as Speaker of the House.
Well, that's nothing new. He's tried to do that from the moment I ran for office. Look.
Well, this time he says he's going to keep going. May not get there before the 15th ballot, but it took 15 for Kevin McCarthy. He says he's coming for you. Can you survive?
Yes, I'll survive. You know, this is personal with Matt. So be it. Bring it on. Let's get over with it, and let's start governing. If he's upset because he tried to push us in a shutdown, and I made sure government didn't shut down, then let's have that fight.
I don't care. There's now the Gaetz-McCarthy fight, the Gaetz fight with everybody, conservatives fight with this. Lindsey Graham's on there defending Kevin McCarthy. Here he was.
I think Kevin is the right guy at the right time. The only way he loses his job is if a handful of Republicans join up with the Democratic Party to fire him. That would be a disaster for the future of the Republican Party. That's not going to happen. Kevin has the overwhelming confidence of his membership. He worked to avoid a shutdown. He will help Ukraine, but he's telling everybody in the country, including me, you better send something over for the border for me to help Ukraine, and he's right to make that demand.
What am I supposed to think about Kevin? Obviously, I'm not a big fan of GOP leadership or Kevin McCarthy. What am I supposed to make of all this, Amber? I'm so used to being disappointed. I didn't care. I knew it was coming.
Exactly. I mean, this situation's kind of tricky because I think what happened here is the Freedom Caucus did kind of get out ahead of their skis a little bit. I think they were trying to replicate the success of that 15-vote showdown when Speaker Kevin McCarthy was first voted in by the Republican caucus. They were able to get quite a few good concessions out of that fight, including this ability to vacate the speakership or bring a motion to vacate the speakership with just one vote. They got greater representation on the committees. They got greater buy-in into the legislative process. But in this case, there was a better bill that could have been passed a few days ago that included both spending cuts and border security and did not have the Ukraine funding. Now we passed a CR that just doesn't have the Ukraine funding. And supposedly, there might be a backdoor deal between Kevin McCarthy and the House Democrats that he would bring Ukraine funding for a straight up-down vote when Congress comes back into session or starts debating the spending bill after the CR is close to running out. So if that's the case, then the Freedom Caucus probably should have known where that line was because clearly other people in their party were not interested in letting this go into a shutdown. The Democrats certainly weren't interested in going into a shutdown. So I think they just pushed it a touch too far. I support what they were trying to do, but in this case, the negotiations just didn't end in their favor.
Amber, if he does get bounced, which I doubt, what can we get that's better? I guess this is my point. We don't have a big majority, and I'm not defending Kevin McCarthy, but I'm looking at this list. Who's going to get who's going to get appointed speaker who's better? Jim Jordan? We're stuck with dorks like this, right?
I think that's right. I mean, here's the problem. Kevin McCarthy is not a dyed-in-the-wool conservative. He's not an ideological guy. But that's something that Republicans, I think, kind of have to live with, because the benefit of having somebody who's not ideological in the speaker position is that he is simply looking at where the votes are. And that was repeatedly what we saw during this CR fight, which was there were some bills that were brought forward by the Freedom Caucus that maybe could have passed by a few votes in the House that had no chance of passing in the Senate. So it was basically a futile exercise. And Kevin McCarthy, I think, was pretty honest with them about what he realistically thought would get through both chambers, both the House and the Senate. So it really hurts me and pains me to defend Kevin McCarthy in this case. But it seems like repeatedly Republicans wait until the last minute to put up this big fight about spending. And they try to use shutdowns as a political negotiating tool. And both establishment Republicans and Democrats really have no appetite for that. So you're basically negotiating against yourselves.